too many of the organizations or too many people who are in charge of a project are non-artists. That's the gripe. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Because it's like you speak a different language from the person who's, I guess, the authority figure. And oftentimes it's a lot of translating of the language you speak as the creative. Artists have a level of understanding of one another, creative people just in general. And it just seems like I've been in the most successful situations when the person in charge is an artist, or the person in charge is giving the power to an artist or creative person. They're all run by white folks, which makes me feel like that's why we get the outcomes that we tend to get in Cleveland, which is a very narrow success rate for white artists and a not so successful success rate for non-white artists. Being in a 60% black city with the art institutions being run by predominantly white folks it's a cultural bias. It's a cultural difference. It's a different language. I mean, from top to bottom. I mean, I'm talking art projects, art commissions, art education. I mean, I'm the whole gamut. If I go work with a white group of kids, I got more resources, oftentimes more than if I go work with a black group of kids. Places that seem to have white folks seem to have more success, more resources, more visibility, more. And then black folks, it's, oh, we didn't realize that we was cutting y'all asses out. You know what I'm saying? Right. No matter whether you're adult all the way down to a child. Cleveland is the place where the institutions steal from the artists.
So you pitch an idea and then you look up and it's taken by
somebody's
the
done
institution and you're just completely cut out of
the. Or they make you apply for your own idea. Or they take your idea and turn your idea into a launch and series for multiple artists that they're trying to, I guess, kind of gather.
There is so much of, issues that are surrounding the black artists here in Cleveland.
How can you fix something if you don't identify what the problem is? Like, I get the fact that people want solutions, but we haven't identified the problems. I mean, I feel like a lot of times black artists, we need to vent the experience. For me, being a product of art education, I feel like a lot of what my engagement was about the techniques, learning how to use the tools. I feel like I was a child that was being helped to make art. Being an art educator in the same environment now, I feel like art is being used kind of watered down. It seems to be more of an activity than it is a healthy form of expression for a young person. I mean, I've been in a lot of meetings where they said, well, we're not trying to make artists here. And I sit there and I cringe, like, somebody trying to turn me into an artist played a real vivid role in my life. And I feel like a vivid role in the lives of people who were around me when I was younger. And me being an artist, I kind of feel like these places don't really want to know what these black kids are thinking and feeling for real. Art sector using black children. I oftentimes look at my experience as a black child in the city of Cleveland. We were a group of young black kids who were used to help the city position itself the way it functions now, which is a kind of monopoly to a very small amount of organizations. So I just feel like you got these kids in these classrooms who could really use this form of creative expression. But it just seems like the people who are benefiting the most are the adults around it, black or white. I'm just watching these young people get, to, in my opinion, a half-ass interaction with being a creative person. Right. We look at time after time that who receives the whatever's being presented seems to be white folks. And then it seems to be a very small amount of black folks receiving whatever it is. Money dangled in front of artists in hopes of opportunities. I don't know, some of you might have a grant or fellowship or project, and, there might be a call for art, RFQ, so it's like, oh, we got this $5,000, this $10,000, this $20,000, so I watch how a lot of artists come up with ideas, I guess, in hopes to be able to do one of these projects. So I say dangle because we not the recipients of it. Right. Artists from out of town seem to get more leverage, more visibility, the opportunities. I mean, these projects that these places are making us apply for are the same ones that people from out of town get. You know what I mean? So when we riding around the city, when we go into the different places, it's like we're looking at people who are being paid a lot of money, who haven't made a commitment to fucking be a part of the city or a part of the community. And it's a huge trend in the city. I think it has a lot to do with, as well as a lot of our organizations are run by non-artists, they're also, over the history, been run by people who aren't from the city. And I think for some of the stronger organizations to be run by people who aren't from the city, it's not having that same kind of sensitivity to what's it's like they don't give a fuck about the artists in the city. Right. You know what I mean? Because they're not from here. Right. They ain't from these neighborhoods. You know what I'm saying? It don't make them a fucking difference who work is on this building that they may never ride past. Right. And if they do, they didn't used to go to that building when they was a kid, nothing like that. I mean, it's another disconnect. It's just something else that I've noticed. Like, there's no non-traditional place that the system has set up and established. Right. The tattoo culture is a place, but they ain't teaching tattoos in school. Right. But that's what a lot of visual artists may look at and see as an option, which means it seems like it would be amazing to be facilitating some of that before they get out of school, you know? No, I feel like generally speaking, people were being taught to go to college. I feel like we are part of that generation where the goal was for us to graduate. Like, that was the subconscious goal of the administration, is to graduate these kids, because we're in a high volume of black kids not graduating. The bottom line is black folks gonna need to know how to survive off of this shit, because the opportunities are gonna be limited. Not that they're gonna be hard, they're gonna be limited. Which is going to say, well, how do I, put some money in my pocket off this thing that I don't know how to stop doing? Right. And it's not a whole lot of conversations about that happening early on. I feel like people who have been able to survive off of being a creative person has been happier as an artist. Right. And then people who've been able to thrive, are, or even, extremely successful, are just rare. Anybody being honest about what's going to happen when you turn 18, you graduate, and these systems don't really give a fuck about you. You know what I mean? They just got another group of kids. I can come up with a whole list of gripes that I've kind of witnessed and experienced and watched, and it ain't nobody to fucking tell. These places kind of get a chance to, like, the art system itself, it can function like this, and it's not being critiqued. And if you're the person critiquing it, you the person complaining, you the person upset, you the person mad. But I mean, in my mind, it should be being critiqued. And I feel like it not being critiqued helps it stay the same. I think Cleveland is a microcosm of, American society. And I feel like this list that I came up with to give to a foundation could be laid and applied to everybody. Mm-hmm. Too many middlemen. Organizations seem to figure out where the void is, and then they decide that they're going to fill it. And in a city like Cleveland, where it's not a whole lot of competition for organizations, they develop a monopoly, and then they become the intermediary between the creative person and the project, or the creative person and the money, or the creative person and the community. And that's largely how the city functions. Mm-hmm. Like, you got to go through someone in order to get something done. Yeah. And then you got people who care about what's happening in the city having to go through someone to find someone who's able to do it. This whole chase and push for diversity, equity, and inclusion and blah, 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 blah it's like time is just ticking off the clock. You know what I'm saying? And it's a lot of people at work, claiming to try to figure this out. When you got artists in the city who have been very available and very vocal about how to change some of this stuff. If it ain't no real public conversation about what the problems are, and you got people making the same mistakes over and over and over again, that's where that comes from. Mm-hmm. You, the person in place to fix it, and you have no fucking clue how to fix it. And then Cleveland is one of those cities where we tend to, the people in charge of our organizations tend to do what another city is doing. So once you got, we got to let one of y'all niggas, write some articles, or let one of y'all niggas have a show, or, now Black Lives Matter. All of that, this stuff is,
and racism is a public health crisis.
Yeah, this stuff is not fixing the problem. Right. What it's doing is masking it. Mm-hmm. My understanding of equity is catching people up. So is what's happening in the art world in terms of a higher level of visibility for Black artists, catching Black artists up? That just becomes my question. Mm-hmm. And if you're a Black artist and you don't even know what the fuck been given out, do you even know if you being caught up? Right. Well, I know some of the stuff that's been given out over the last at least 30 years. So I can tell you 100% that ain't none of these niggas being caught up. Mm-hmm. No, not at all. No clue to how much of an investment has already kind of been blown. I feel like the creative people are the ones with the no. I feel like I've had more shows than the places facilitating shows. But I'm usually instructed on what to do and how to do it and how to go about it. Mm-hmm. I feel like I've been a part of more projects than project managers I've had to interact with. But I'm not looked at as a resource. It's like I'm looked at as a tool or something. You know what I'm saying? To be used. I have a 30-year history of moving through this system. Mm-hmm. I just feel like if it ain't some specific people that you ask for suggestions or insight or advice or consultation in this city, when it comes to art, you ain't trying to get it done.
Gotcha.
You running from the real problem. You running from the truth. If you don't bring this information in front of a very, very small population of people. I'm one of them. Mm-hmm. And I don't know why they let me sit on the sideline just to critique it. Because in my opinion, if you don't want me to know, you hiding something. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it's just that. Right. I can name a list of people. If you don't want them to know, you hiding. Or whoever you got in charge is trying to hide us from the situation.
Right.
You know, and then they'll do it and they'll say, oh, what do you think? I think, what the fuck you asking for now?
Right.
If you really wanted this to be effective, you really wanted to challenge the imagination and the perceptions of whoever you're listening to, you'd have had somebody like me in the conversation early on.
Yeah. Just, plain and simple.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you don't really want to know. And that goes to the using artists as resources. It's people who will tell you critiques. As an artist, you critique so much. You're not running from the truth. You recognize that being told the truth helps you further develop whatever it is you're trying to do, whether you want to hear that shit or not. If we got a lack of resources, if we got a lack of artistic and creative instruction, if we got a lack of a feeder system, you know what I mean? It's like all this lack of, or all this underrepresentation, underutilization, all of this, my list of gripes, I would say has created a underdeveloped system for Black artists and the Black community and the way it engages with artists.
Yeah.
You know, looking at how much money has been spent in Cleveland's art world for art sector funding and the institutions themselves and what's been built and how much money has went out of the city. You know, I'm looking at it as the development, you know, and I'm looking at it just being narrow as fuck in comparison to how much of those resources went towards the Black arts community, or the development of Black artists just in general.
Yeah.
When I'm a part of these meetings, the goal is to boost the self-esteem of a Black child. But why not try to get that Black child to be able to make $500,000 by a certain age with the production and creation of their own creative product?
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. That's too dangerous.
I mean, that's my personal goal, is to take the investment that was made, you know, and I'm a beneficiary of Black artist creation and development. I just recognize that I was a small pool and small population of people. And I'm just trying to take what was developed where I was able to benefit and turn that shit into a life.
Right.
And throughout the history of slavery, you know, the scraps have come in our direction. So when you look at how much money might go to a project, and then you look at how much is left over that go in the direction of one of these Black neighborhoods to do something and interact with them, and there's no more money and the budget is low. When you look at versus the entire budget, we get the scraps, the leftovers. You know, there's a very much I got caught, you know, excluding Black folks. So let me see what I can gather and scrape and then throw in that direction, you know, on some shut the fuck up. A lot of what was happening in the art world is some watered down as repeat of something that was happening in another city, you know, and it's kind of like certain elements are taken and pulled from someone who has some level of influence or power sees, and then they do a Jake-ass Cleveland version. I mean, I feel like we were instructed to look at what people were doing out of town.
We were.
In order for the possibility to get some money or some funding.
Yeah.
And in my mind, it's like, get the fuck out of here, man.
Yeah.
That's not art.
No.
That's not creative.
Yeah. That's what I was gonna say. It's very unoriginal. I have an identity.
There's no creative identity. I mean, and then arguably, the strongest creatives leave the city for all these reasons, knowingly or unknowingly.
Yeah, that's the next point. You have to leave.
A thing that is a popular conversation, is a popular phrase. You hear it a lot. You hear it in reference to respect from art institutions, but you also hear this as respect from the broader community who would be engaging in art. Like, whatever is happening here, people don't fuck with you until they see you somewhere else. And I think it's created a belief where people feel like it's better for them to be somewhere else. Mm-hmm. I just beg to differ. I just really don't. I don't agree that it has to happen one way, but I feel like I'm an artist. I wouldn't. Yeah, and when I was in another city, I didn't feel like I was in the right place.
Right.
And I feel like I'm somebody who people and myself think could be anywhere. Mm-hmm. And it's a lot of people who don't think I should be here.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And I'm just like, yeah, I think you're wrong.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And they've said that because they think you have to leave the city to get respected.
Right. And I'm not having a huge experience of feeling like I'm not respected. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Like I've been gathering up all my ammo for my fight.
Right.
More than I've been getting beat up.
Right.
I ain't even went to war yet.
Right.
Yeah, I just feel like, and I said this to one of my old students, that I feel like we in a flat out freaking war zone. And I feel like it ain't a whole lot of people equipped to be a part of the fight. And I recognize that some of the most amazing people, strongest creatives or whatever, are just all over the world. Living on the fact that they made the best decision, which is to not be nowhere near fucking here. And then to be here is to wonder what's here.
Yeah.
When my mind says it'll never be here, if nobody ever makes a commitment to build it. Yeah. If you're going to be here, you got to want to be ready to build something. It just is sad because the people who could afford to really build something are so far removed and away from the city. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And I feel like there's a couple cities who've been able to rebuild and redevelop their city by some of the strongest creative people staying in town. When I'm a part of projects, I feel like my work looks like the community. Mm-hmm. My work is the Black folks. I look at what's put on a flyer that's going to get printed 10,000 times, or what gets put on the email, e-blast. It's never the shit to me that looks like what the city, the Black folks, would even really respond and engage with and feel like whatever is happening is communicating and talking to them.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And I recognize like, oh yeah, y'all ain't about to put me on the flyer. Mm. Y'all want me a part of the show. Y'all want to see whatever niggas I could get to come, I guess. Mm-hmm. But you ain't about to brand what you're doing with the image of the people in Cleveland. We definitely need a Black artist revolution. I mean, and they getting away with this stuff in every sector in the city. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like we could take this whole conversation and remove the word creatives and remove the word art and remove art institutions, and we can lay this on other sectors. Yeah. This whole idea of picking one nigga, you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And I'm just watching what that's doing. I mean, I've tried to participate with a large group of Black artists, and I recognize that I was perceived as the pick, and how that created issues with people's feelings towards me. You know?
Like you were the one always getting selected for stuff? Or
I guess. Oh, okay. Or I'm the one that my name coming up, I guess they don't necessarily know that I ain't getting selected or that I ain't even applying. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. But I just recognize that I feel like we're pit against each other. I feel like I've watched white folks try to be the intermediary between myself and other Black artists. And it turns out that, now we don't fuck with each other. Like, right. Nigga, I don't even know you. So what's the issue? And in my mind, the issue is that middle person thinking that, you as a Black person remind me of this other Black person, and y'all need to know each other, or I'm going to introduce y'all, or I'm going to be the gatekeeper between y'all two, or who gets and who doesn't. If we fighting for the scraps, somebody going to be mad. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I done seen a couple of attempts for all the black folks to get together. I mean, without Sankofa Fine Art, Tri-C, vending and booths and all that, or without the Caramels festival that happened in that back parking lot, without whatever they did to 55th and destroyed all of that, you know, without the Jazz Temple, which is now Mocha, where all of the famous black artists was going, without Winston Willis. I mean, it's like, it seemed like it was a time period in this city where this wasn't our issue, you know, and I just feel like the systems in place have done a really, really good job of dismantling that stuff or pretending like that stuff has never existed. Not a lot of art with purpose being made. I think people it's just a lot of people exercising some creative abilities, you know, like they good as fuck at whatever it is they do. But the shit that they do don't really seem to do nothing other than tell people that they can do it.
A collection of work.
Like some old shit that you called to do, that you can't sleep, that's going to never be forgotten. You know what I'm saying? That's going to change something, or say something, or do something. You know, is it complex concepts happening? You know, are you on the artist journey? Have you explored who am I? Do you have what you find along the artist journey? You know what I mean? Like, I'll just question, are people taking a real dive at the people that they've studied throughout the history of making art, and then contrast that with themselves? I question if people are really doing that. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. I think we get a lot of fucking compliments from non-fucking artists. And I think it just make it easy to just keep painting pretty pictures.
I'm just wondering, why do you think that person you were talking to is interested in hearing the black artist's gripe?
Well, I feel like the conversation was intriguing to them because I guess people who want to help financially, I guess, are claiming or don't know the problems. And I guess it's one thing to know the problems, and then it's another thing to hear complaints. I'm speaking from, this is the shit that I've learned. This is my observation of the landscape that I've been experiencing for a really long time. And everything that's on this list are things that kind of highlighted themselves at some point, where it's like, oh, I didn't know this. Oh, I didn't realize that. You know, I didn't know that this shit was unfair and unequal and damn near fucking impossible. Like, I didn't go into any of this as a child knowing that.
Right.
So for me to learn it by experiencing it, it's like, oh, got you. For me, all the challenges have created my direction. And I'm very fucking satisfied with where I am with the directions that I've maneuvered. So I would argue that I speak from a different perspective to where I can remove my personal experience of what I would complain about to say, this is a rooted problem. Without fixing it. I mean, that's how my mind works, is getting to the root, because the root is where the solution lives. I really, truly believe that somehow we're being tricked not to be vocal about the bullshit. I think it comes with a negative connotation. I think it's like, oh, what are the solutions? We don't want to talk about that. Or, oh, we keep having the same conversations about the age-old problem. My thought as an artist is to create something that carries the conversation.
Create
like this part, like create a piece of art,
like a piece of art
that carries the conversation. Is a way to be effective with it. I don't think it's healthy at all to carry all of this stuff. And I don't think it's productive to be in conversations about it where that's all it is a conversation. In my mind, it's record a podcast episode, cut it up, throw it on top of some visuals, call it a short film, smack it 20 minutes, and let the conversation start to move and carry. I mean, that's what I feel like I've learned going to university circles since I was 9 years old. You know what I'm saying? It's like we need to create towards this stuff that we're trying to express. I don't think we need to sit in meeting after meeting after meeting about what the problem is. I think art needs to interact with the problem in order for us to develop a solution. Because I think the conversation is supposed to be out of control. And I think right now the conversation is very contained. And I think it has a lot of people in their head and in their mind about whether to complain or not.
Right.
People in general are waiting for the place to facilitate the conversation. It's the way that you're controlled is by your options being controlled. Right. So without the option of one of those places calling a meeting for everybody to come to, you watch it kind of go away and you watch it die. You watch very, very vocal people become kind of isolated or looked at whatever kind of way. And I just feel like, I don't know, Cleveland can be the mound to pitch from, because this is it's a bigger conversation than just Cleveland. It's just rare to be in a conversation about it. When I'm in them, I love them. But I feel like they're a waste of time if they aren't a part of becoming some form of art or becoming broadly, widely public. Why the fuck would you come back? Shit, the city is suffering without a lot of the creative people who left the city. And to be here is to be prepared to build. Because what people are experiencing, the negative things that people are experiencing are real. And not a lot of alternative. Right. And I would argue that the stuff that's positive and productive for people, Black artists they're experiencing, is just as it's just a limited amount of shit. Yeah. So it's I'm going down with the ship. Right. Trying to make sure it's something here. Right. Because otherwise it's just going to continue to go in the direction that it's going, and it just seems to be going down. I mean, that was a harsh reality for me to realize that if you the resource, you got to level up. Because if you got a group of people who are dependent on you, it's like you really got to look at yourself and say, well, what the fuck do I got? And I looked at myself like, well, I ain't nowhere near cash none of this shit in. How the fuck I'm going to help any of these people that's around me or engage in a productive, successful way with any of these people around me if this all I got? Right. If this all I got, this is all I got to give. And what I got to give ain't doing shit compared to what I feel like is needed. Yep. So it's like, oh, I got to go get more. I mean, I listen to a lot of people in conversations celebrate on, oh, this is what I'm doing with nothing. You know what I'm saying? It's like that shit cute at the beginning. But at some point you're like, oh, okay. Like if somebody really being honest, like you don't got shit though. Right. You really ain't got shit other than what the fuck they got. Right.